and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. Almost time to go catch the school bus and catch up with my son. But today is 2 years that I've owned the Street 55 Chevy, the black one. I call that the Street 55 Chevy, and if you can see it on the left, I call it the Race 55, but it's Street Race 55. Drastically different vehicles. It's been a good 2 years owning it. Definitely enjoyed it. Quick backstory, the car itself set for over 30 years in a field out in western Maine, and the guy that fixed it up to its current state saw the car when he was in high school, apparently. So he finally got his hands on it, spent a while fixing her up, and I ended up buying it. Quick story anyway. So it is cool in its own way. I've done a few repairs to it. The first spring I had it, I had to do some repairs. The motor mounts and the frame brackets were loose, so I fixed that up and worked on the emergency brake. Never really got it 100%. Changed the rear tires, re-welded some stuff in the back, and other than that, I've been pretty much cruising it. The first day I had it, I trailed it at home, took it for a spin. Was then, and I'm still surprised at the amount of power the Blueprint 383 small block Chevy has. It's listed, I believe, 430, 440, or somewhere around there. 430 horsepower, 440 torque, or vice versa. Probably the other way around. And again, I never had a lot of good small blocks, but the thing runs really well. And it has a TKO 600 5-speed transmission with overdrive and a 410 gear. My first thought before I even drove it that 410 is going to be too low. That is not the case. It's I have a 29 12.5 Mickey Thompson I put on it, rear tires, to fill out the wheel wells because the springs have been moved in, and I put traction bars on it because the wheel hopped really bad, and I put the big Mickey Thompsons on it, and I had a whole list. First day, seat belts, I added them to the front, just lap belts. I haven't added them to the back yet. The bell housing and the drive shaft and drive shaft loop go together. It has a brand new drive shaft, but it only has 1310 U-joints, and that's in a heavy car with a clutch pedal. That thing's not going to live a long life, and if it does, I want to have it contained in a loop. And I have lots of Lakewood bell housings, scatter shields kicking around. It has an aluminum bell housing on it. I would never build a vehicle like that with aluminum bell housing, but I'm driving one that has one, but I don't beat it. I just drive it. I just cruise it. Other than the first day, before I even fix the throttle linkage, which I'm going to talk about in a second, I don't believe I've floored it since. It's just fun to cruise the way it is. But I'm also impressed with the Blueprint 383 that you can lug that motor down. 410 with a 29.5 tire is perfect. You could go anywhere. I used to lug it all the time, 1,000, 1,100 RPM everywhere I went, because it'll pull itself that way, doesn't ping. And lately I kind of felt bad about doing that all the time, so I've been running it just in fourth gear, so it spins up around 2,000. Most of the roads around here I can go 50, 55, so. Today I double checked again, because when I bought it, the speedometer worked, and of course I changed the rear tire size. I wanted more sidewalls, so the tires are taller. It is GPS accurate to the mile per hour, as near as you can tell on a swept gauge. 55 is 55, 60 is 60. I've checked it again today just now, because I took it to the grocery store and back. Someday when I have the transmission of bell housing off, I will put the Lakewood scatter shield that I'm saving for it. It has a hydraulic clutch. Again, a choice I would never make. up until this vehicle, I have disliked the hydraulic clutches. This one is nice. It drives like it has mechanical linkage, and that's awesome. So the first day I take it for a spin, I bring it back, I'm just looking it over. You know, when you finally own something, you can spend a few minutes looking at it, because I literally looked at it for 5 or 10 minutes, drove it down my street and back, and made a deal on it. The first day I laid eyes on it. So then I went to bring it home, and I took it for a spin, and then I opened the hood and I realized that the throttle linkage, because it's mechanical, there's a arm that comes up off the firewall, and there's a rod that goes to the carburetor. And in that situation, I don't have a Holly carb in my hand, but on the linkage on the side, there's one big hole. Now they make a bushing for that this car didn't have. They had a bunch of washers and stuff stacked up, and there was a 1/2 inch that didn't do anything to take up the slack. So I built some plastic bushings out of some nylon I had, and I've been running that for 2 years, up until this morning. Excuse me, I built these nylon bushings 2 years ago today, put them in there, drastically better, got used to driving it with a more responsive throttle, and then kind of forgot about it. Until this morning, I wanted to bring it down from the upper garage, check the air in the tires, and clean up a couple things. And I've been walking past these 2 bushing sets I bought. Why I bought 2 different brands, I don't know. I can't tell you the Moroso part number. Yes, I can. It's a 0169-C throttle arm bushing kit. And this is an all-star 54-164 throttle bushing kit. Identical pieces. They're stepped to go in the hole on the Holly carburetor linkage arm. And also it fits the 55 Chevy arm that comes up out of the firewall perfectly. I've included a picture. I was going to film this outside right now, but the wind's picked up and the leaves are blowing around. Acorns are falling, and you get a lot of noise on my speaker, so I gave up. But it took me, what, a few minutes to bolt these in, and talk about having to get used to driving it all over again. Now the throttle has no play, because you actually tighten. I got a 1/4 inch bolt with a nylock nut. You tighten it completely up, and the only thing moving is the rod that I made that has rod ends in it. So these are actually made to go up against a rod end so it doesn't interfere with it. And now that's flawless. So I'm going to call that an improvement for sure. Also on my list of things I have not accomplished, floor insulation. It gets hot in there in the summertime. It feels like you have hot air being forced at you. Well, today in the sunshine, I finally crawled under the dash and looked out through the driver's side of the firewall, and there's got to be 10 or 12 5/16 or bigger holes that have been drilled in the firewall over the years, and they're just open. There's no insulation on the firewall. Not only that, I'm getting air blowing on me all the time, so I will plug those out. The passenger side has a lot less things I need to fill up, but that's easy, and then someday I'll probably insulate the floor as well, but if I can just get the hot air off me, I'll probably be happy with that. I also included a picture of my trunk of the Street 55 and the ritual I have to go through to park it in an attached garage attached to my house. The 55 fill tube is still present with a factory vented cap, and that works fine. You could drive with it that way. You can't add fuel at the fuel pump very well because the tank itself didn't vent fast enough. You can see it has a fuel cell that's actually part of the trunk floor. Someday, I should probably put it on the list, I will put a stock type trunk floor back in and put a traditional, 55 and up Chevy tank under the floor and rehook up the fill tube. It'll free up my trunk space, and no rush for that. What's in there now works fine because first I put a vent tube on it, which was -8, and when you parked it in the garage, that'll make the whole house smell like fuel. So I knew it would park just fine with the factory tiny vented cap. It has a tiny hole in it, and it doesn't let out the quantity of vapors, I suppose, or at the speed that the -8 hose does. So I have a fuel shut off on the vent, and I have a knife switch on the positive, I think it's on the positive side of the battery. I have to double check that. I might have it on the negative side. Either way, a battery disconnect is just a knife switch I can swing out. And so I have to open the trunk, shut off the large vent on the tank, and shut off the battery. Also, I should add to the list, I'm just remembering as I'm talking about it, there's from the factory, like a cardboard bulkhead that goes behind the rear seat. And I have fuel and a battery in the trunk. I should have a metal bulkhead in there, so definitely should put that on the list. It wouldn't pass tech to drag race it, of course I'm not doing that, but just in general, it's probably a good idea to separate me from the dangers that lie in my trunk. And it would probably be a whole lot quieter too, although the car does cruise pretty well. I align the front end, straighten out the wheel, and it has aftermarket front control arms on it, and it's okay. The car sits really low, doesn't really have a drag on anything, knock on wood. I can make one tire rub if I have the front wheels turn enough and hit a bump going into a parking lot or something. The tread of the front tire will rub on the inner fender just a tiny bit, but you have to get the perfect situation to do that. Doesn't happen very often. I took the time this morning to tighten up the power steering belt. The car has power steering, and I guess I'm happy, but the belt was just loose enough that if you're trying to park somewhere, I try to have the car rolling before I turn the wheel, but the belt would chirp a little bit, so it took a little bit to figure out exactly how to adjust it. There's one hidden Allen head that you have to use a ball end Allen socket to get to, but we got it tightened up, and that's good. I probably wouldn't put power steering in it if I was building it, but it's there, and I guess I'm glad I have it. It has manual brakes, and they work fantastic, so I don't see the need for power brakes. It has, aftermarket metric GM front disc brakes and drum rear, and the brake pedal, everything feels normal. You don't even really notice you don't have power brakes. The braking system works pretty well, with the exception of the parking brake. It doesn't work the greatest. It works somewhat. The car has an aftermarket stereo system, AM, FM. I don't know if it's a tape or not. Digital clock, all that stuff. It has a somewhat factory-looking radio. I forget the name of it, vintage maybe. I have had it on maybe once. I don't reset. It has a factory clock in the dash, a digital clock on the AM FM radio. I'm killing the power every time I park it, so I don't, unless I'm going somewhere all day and I want the clock to work, I don't even bother with it. I think I've played the radio once or twice. You have to play it really loud to drown out the glass packs in a whatever compression 383 small block at speed. So I just enjoy the wind noise because you have to have the windows down, because otherwise you're going to bake in there, and just cruise and be happy. So that's 2 years of owning it. Very minimal work. I've worked on it 3 times maybe. I enjoy it. It is what it is. I'm going to continue until I finish another project to enjoy that sporadically. When the mood strikes, it has a door opener and off I go. So it's not as enjoyable as driving the LS Swap Dodge pickup. Have to explore the reasons why, maybe next time. So enjoy your evening. Talk to you soon.